Welcome back to another FPL team selection, this time ahead of Gameweek 33, where I have two free transfers. I'll be talking about my transfer plans for Gameweek 33 and 34 and how I'm looking to dead end into the wildcard that I'll be using in Gameweek 35. Let me know your thoughts as always down in the comment section below. I'll also provide a brief review of Gameweek 32 and talk about how I did there. Smash the like button if you enjoy it and also subscribe to the channel. We're very close to getting 23,000 subscribers and the aim is to reach that by Tuesday for the UCL Fantasy deadline stream. There's more FPL and UCL Fantasy content over the weekend and also going into next week, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one of those videos or live streams as well. And also check out all the other links in the description below for my Twitter and Instagram, also Patreon, the channel memberships, the Discord server, FPL League, FPL Challenge League, and also check out my Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review as well. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw Dubravka finally deliver with a 9-pointer. I kind of played a bit mischievously. I put Areola in the starting 11 and I just hope for bench goalkeeper points as I typically get. And that's what I got this time round with Dubravka, who was always going to be subbed on. And that was 4 saves, 2 bonus points and a clean sheet against Fulham away, which I didn't expect at all. In fact, I thought Fulham would win the game. So Dubravka has done something very good for once. And I don't really trust him in the long term, but he does double in Gameweek 37 and that's where he could also offer some value. And Newcastle have great fixtures until the end of the season, and with the likes of Lascelles as your budget defender being injured for the rest of the campaign and Kieran Trippier still out, I think Dubravka is the best way to cover that Newcastle defence. But they're still one of the worst in the league in this calendar year and also over the course of the season, but I'm very happy with that 9-pointer. I'm starting to regret this transfer slightly. Virgil van Dijk has blanked in 2 successive games. Against Sheffield United, I thought that was a locked-in clean sheet for Liverpool, but they in fact conceded first before making a comeback. And against Manchester United, Liverpool were 1-0 up, and all of a sudden Man United take the lead in the second half with just 2 shots. But Liverpool have been a bit shaky. You've seen it as well on Thursday against Atalanta in the Europa League. A 3-0 home defeat despite Virgil van Dijk and Konate starting, but Liverpool rotated a lot in other areas and they might live to regret that, of course. But Van Dijk, I'm just not so sure about him at the moment, but I'm still quietly confident of 1 clean sheet over the next 3 games, and I'm hoping Liverpool can do that from an FPL perspective, but it's not looking too good at this moment in time. Looking at better things though from my defence, Saliba kept a clean sheet, but also picked up a yellow card against Brighton, so he delivered 5 points, and Arsenal were imperious against the Seagulls. They were very shaky defensively though against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and Saliba had one of his worst performances in an Arsenal shirt, but in the Premier League, Saliba has been incredible, and same with the Arsenal defence. Pedro Porro got 11 points with that goal, and also maximum bonus points, which I believe he shared with Mickey van der Ven. So Pedro Porro for me has been a very poor asset in this calendar year, but he finally delivered. I think the only other time he actually returned was against Manchester United, where he got an assist, and also Aston Villa, where he kept the clean sheet and got a bonus point, but a lot of us, like myself, did bench him for that. So it's good to see Pedro Porro finally deliver, and that was his first Premier League goal of the season. So overall, my defensive line was very solid, with the exception of Van Dijk. The midfield was also solid, with Mohamed Salah scoring a late penalty, and apart from that, his overall performance was quite poor, but he always seems to find a way to score at Old Trafford. I think that's 6 consecutive goals at Old Trafford, and that's a record which he's already extending upon. So Salah, of course, is a great FPL asset, but I have to say his recent performances have been quite poor, to say the least. The second midfielder was Saka, who got a double-digit return, scoring a penalty. I think his overall performance wasn't his best as well, but he also had some good moments throughout the game, and for him to get 10 points, maybe you could argue was a bit fortuitous. And for those that captain the likes of Saka and Salah, obviously fair play, and those were the ones to go for over the template pick of Cole Palmer, who got 5 points. He got an assist, but it does seem a bit underwhelming, and he was subbed off quite early, and Chelsea went on to draw 2-2 against Sheffield United. But all 3 of these template midfielders delivered. Phil Foden was benched though, and I made a late change during the deadline stream to bring on Anthony Gordon, who kept a clean sheet, but that's pretty much all he did. 3 points there for Gordon, who's quite poor on the road, but it's a different story at St James's Park, of course, and he does play Tottenham at home next, and that's where he could be a very good FPL asset once again. So really, apart from Gordon and Van Dijk up until this point, all very good. The forward line, I have to say though, was quite disappointing. I also bought Rodrigo Muniz a couple of weeks ago, and that's consecutive blanks for him. And he does play West Ham away next, but in the major doubles in 34 and 37, he plays Liverpool and Manchester City at home. He can deliver, and he was just awarded the Player of the Month award, but in FPL terms, he needs to step it up, of course, and you do have a lot of budget forwards who are delivering and that have doubles in Gameweek 34, like Mateta. So I do slightly regret not going for Mateta. I wouldn't have started him against Man City, for example, but he's looking like a great option with 2 home games against West Ham and Newcastle next week. But buying him now might be awkward, facing Liverpool away. Yeah, if Liverpool defend the way they did against Atalanta, Crystal Palace could have some joy on the counter-attack, and if Elise starts, that could boost Eze and Mateta's prospects in the process. But Muniz is still a good budget forward, but if you are looking to maybe use the bench boost in Gameweek 34, or you want another doubler, it might be worth offloading him, as I discuss in my trans tips video and podcast. The next forward is Solanke, who blanked against Luton Town, and Bournemouth took the lead, but Luton ended up winning and making that comeback, and Solanke was very disappointing to say the least. He has been a bit underwhelming in recent games, but I am backing him for that double in Gameweek 34, and you could even argue he's a hold for Gameweek 35 against Brighton at home. But certainly Solanke will become a sell very soon. It's just a matter of timing, and if you are wildcarding in 35, I think that's the best chance and the best time to sell Solanke. The final forward in the early kickoff was Erling Haaland, who scored and got 2 bonus points, so a decent outing from him. Ultimately, those that went for Palmer got something, but Haaland, Saka and Salah all outscored him. So Palmer, once again the template pick for the captaincy, didn't deliver to the same levels as the alternative picks. It was a decent week for me, getting 69 points and also going up in rank to 238,000 from around 290,000, I believe. It was quite a decent rank rise, but I did captain Palmer, and time after time again, the template captaincy pick hasn't really delivered in the way that we expect. There are a few exceptions, of course, but I really need to start going a bit different with the captaincy, because it just seems like a season-long trend now, and after 30 game weeks, if you don't learn, then, well, you aren't really paying attention. Salah was my vice. He got 8 points. I do think his return was a bit lucky, but penalty takers always have that in their locker, and really just a few disappointments, mainly in the forward line, but I'm very happy with most of my midfielders and defenders this week, and Haaland doing what he does best, although he was very underwhelming in the Champions League against Real Madrid, but I'm backing Haaland to do very well against Luton Town if he starts. And I did bench Phil Foden, of course, who was rested against Crystal Palace. He came off of a knock against Real Madrid, and there's a big decision to make. Do I sell Foden and buy a double Gameweek 34 midfielder this week, or do I maybe go another avenue? Because my original plans were to keep Foden, start him this week, but now things have changed, and I will be locking in my team during the deadline stream, so be sure to tune in tomorrow for that, because there's a lot more that could change. But let's now talk about my transfer plans and the team selection for Gameweek 33. Originally, I was looking to make a goalkeeper move and buy David Raya, and that might still happen. It would be Areola out for the Spaniard, and Dubravka would drop to the bench. But as things stand, I'm looking to start Dubravka at home to Tottenham, which certainly isn't ideal, but I think it really comes down to either my goalkeeper or defender being moved on as part of my second transfer, because the first one in the midfield is quite likely to happen, but I'm not expecting a clean sheet here from Newcastle, and the same goes for Tottenham in this game. I think it could be very high scoring, and despite Dubravka's heroics in Gameweek 32, I think the most likely scenario is a blank in Gameweek 33. It's about time that Liverpool defenders deliver, and Virgil van Dijk has Crystal Palace at home. It's a great opportunity for Liverpool to bounce back after their very disappointing night on Thursday against Atalanta, and they need to set things right. I think they will respond and win quite comfortably against Crystal Palace, but after this game, they have 4 away games in the space of 10 days, including Atalanta. Then you've got the likes of Fulham and Everton as part of that double game week, so that could be a very tricky period there for Liverpool, and that's followed by West Ham away in Gameweek 35, but in this home game against Crystal Palace, I think they will respond, and a clean sheet is possible, but Thursday night does put a lot of doubts on Liverpool defenders. I'm still quite keen on their attackers, but their defence does look quite shaky at this moment in time. Next up is William Saliba at home to Aston Villa, and it's worth noting that Aston Villa were the only English club to have won in Europe this week, and Gabriel wasn't spotted in training, and Arteta did hint at something being awry during his press conference. There could be some issues there, and Gabriel not being spotted in training might be a sign of one of the big absentees of Game Week 33. But I personally think he will start the game and it shouldn't be a serious problem. But of course, there are some doubts now being cast over the Brazilian's fitness, and that could actually lower Arsenal's chances of keeping a clean sheet and of winning the game. And Aston Villa are missing Douglas Luiz due to suspension. That's a massive blow for them. They've got a few injury problems themselves and went very strong in Europa Conference League to get that victory. So it's going to be a very difficult game there for both sides, and Arsenal will definitely struggle a lot more if Gabriel were to miss out. And another defender whose fitness is in question for Game Week 33 could still be one of my transfers in Ray and Ait-Nouri. Gary O'Neill was very hopeful in his press conference straight after the game. He was subbed off due to an injury just before 60 minutes, and he gave a further update on Friday in the afternoon. He said Rayan will travel with the group. He's had a minor issue, but I envisage him being part of the matchday squad. The same goes for Juan, Cunha and Dawson. All of them will be in that Wolves squad for Game Week 33. But will Ray and Ait-Nouri start? That isn't very clear at this moment in time, but I'm also quite optimistic about Ait-Nouri's chance of starting. But I might have to delay this transfer to Game Week 34 and not go with him this week, and instead hold on to Pedro Porro and only use one of my 2 free transfers. So I've got 3 transfers I want to make for this week. I'm not going to take a -4 hit just yet, but in the end, instead of using both free transfers, I might just use one and roll the second for Double Gameweek 34. There are several contenders for the captaincy this week, and Mohamed Salah is certainly one of them. He has been a bit off it in recent weeks, but he can still get some goals out of nowhere, and he has a good record against the Eagles. I'm quite happy with the Liverpool attackers, so to speak. It's just Virgil van Dijk that really isn't worth the money at the moment, and Liverpool haven't kept the clean sheet in 8 successive games, but they are still scoring a lot of goals with the exception of that Atalanta game, and Salah's obviously on penalties. He's got great underlying numbers. I think he was looking very sharp before his injury. Ever since, he has maybe been a bit slow, but Salah is inevitable, and I do expect him to return in Game Week 33. And I'm still looking at buying Luis Diaz. It's either going to be Game Week 33 or Game Week 34, and we did get an update on Phil Foden, who would be making way for Luis Diaz if I were to make the transfer this week. And Pep Guardiola basically didn't give anything away. He said, I didn't see the team, I didn't speak with the doctors, we have training this afternoon and we have a meeting and we will see how they feel. So if we get any training pictures and Foden is in there, that could be quite optimistic about his chance of starting in Game Week 33 against Luton Town at home. But it might be worth waiting until the deadline stream and seeing if there are any leaks about Phil Foden starting. And if he is benched, Foden to Luis Diaz will be one of my transfers in for Game Week 33. There's no doubt about that. And if Phil Foden starts, I'll definitely keep him with that plum fixture at home to Luton Town and buy Luis Diaz in Double Game Week 34 instead. My third midfielder is Bukayo Saka, another home fixture, and it's Aston Villa. I think Saka could be an underrated option for the captaincy, just like he was against Brighton, and I mentioned this in my recent videos and podcasts and also in the recent deadline stream for FPL, and I do like Saka against Aston Villa, and I think he's still worth holding on to, probably up until Game Week 35 or 36, and if you're looking to bench boost in 37, Saka could be one of those sacrifices, just like Mohamed Salah, to maximise that bench boost and go for some of the best double Game Week options possible in Game Week 37. All of those doubles were confirmed, and I covered them in my recent videos and podcasts for the transfer tips and the best wildcard team video. The fourth midfielder is Cole Palmer, another home fixture and another contender for the captaincy. He was quite underwhelming in Game Week 32 against Sheffield United, but I'm very confident about Palmer in the weeks to come, and he has 2 doubles very soon in 35 and 37. Some of the fixtures are quite tough, but I still think Cole Palmer is certainly worth holding on to, and he might be worth putting the triple captaincy armband on if you haven't used that chip already. And I think Game Week 35 could be a decent opportunity to do that, especially if you're looking to use the free hit in 34 and the bench boost in Game Week 37. My final midfielder is Anthony Gordon at home to Tottenham. If this fixture was away, Gordon would be on my bench, but the fact he's at home, I'm quite happy to keep him for at least one more week, and the plan is to sell him to Eze in Double Game Week 34. That leaves just 2 slots left in the forward line, and Dominic Solanke is at home to Manchester United, but he's also blanked in 5 of the last 7 games, so he has been quite disappointing in the last couple of weeks, but he's still a tremendous FPL option in terms of value. He's having a great season, and he's certainly worth holding on to for Double Gameweek 34. If you are free hitting in 34, then selling Solanke to Isak could be a great move, but unless you have the free hit in your back pocket, I will look to keep him up until Gameweek 35 or 36, as alluded to earlier. And my final forward is probably the best captaincy option on paper, Erling Haaland at home to Luton Town. He scored 5 goals against them just a couple of weeks ago, 1 or 2 months ago at this point, and he had a great combination with Kevin De Bruyne in that match. I think he's going to start this game, and a lot of Man City fans think that will be the case. It's really the likes of Phil Foden who's going to be a big rotation risk for Gameweek 33, but the likes of Erling Haaland and De Bruyne should start if they're fit and fully available, which it looks like they are. And Haaland for me could be a bit too good to be true, and just like most of the season, the template captaincy options have failed to deliver or not really reached the high standards or expectations that we set of them. And that's why, if you are looking to go a bit different for the captaincy, I think Salah, Saka or Palmer could be the best options for the armband. With 2 free transfers, I'm expecting a lot to change from this video to the deadline stream tomorrow morning, because that Foden leak and any Man City news we get could influence my final transfers for Gameweek 33, and I might delay certain moves like Ait-Nouri by another week and instead buy David Raya at home to Aston Villa and bench Dubravka. And it's worth mentioning that Lewis Hall is also injured for Newcastle, so we could see a back four of Kraft, Dummett, Cher and Dan Burn up against Spurs. I think Heung-min Son could have a field day, for example, and that's why I might have to make my goalkeeper transfer instead, which was my original plan, to buy Ait-Nouri and Raya and keep Foden for another week. So a lot is certainly up in the air and nothing is set in stone, and the same goes for the captaincy. At the moment, I'm going for the template pick of Erling Haaland and Salah's my vice, but I might end up changing this, to be quite honest with you. My bench is currently Areola, Muniz, Zabani and Alfie Doughty. It's a decent bench, to be fair. Muniz could certainly return on that bench, and apart from that, I'm quite happy with my starting 11. It's just a few minor details to kind of correct and finalise, and instead of using both free transfers as you can see on screen, it might end up just being one of them being used, and I can then have a lot more flexibility going into Gameweek 34. But ultimately, I will take a -4 hit at some stage, most likely in Gameweek 34, and I'll be using 4 transfers to set up for that double. There is a link to Drafthound in the description below. I'd highly encourage you to check it out, and many of you are signing up using that link and talking about how useful and fun this resource is, with so many tools at your disposal. In terms of their recommendations for my transfers, Foden to Diaz is at the top of their list, with Pedro Porro to Gabriel being the second transfer they suggest, and both of them would be for free. The suggestion number 2 is Saka to Luis Diaz and Foden to Odegaard, and the last suggestion is Foden to Diaz and Doughty to Zinchenko. Some quite good recommendations there. I do like the Gabriel one, and ultimately my plan is to double up on that Arsenal defence, but most likely it would be Areola to Raya, and I'd make that transfer in Double Gameweek 34, but that could be brought forward to Gameweek 33 depending on any news we get tomorrow. And if we click on this optimization tool, they're recommending Virgil van Dijk and Gordon to come on for Zabani and also Phil Foden, and to captain Erling Haaland with Palmer as the vice, and Salah is the third favourite for the captaincy in terms of predicted points according to the Drafthound algorithm. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Which transfers are you looking to make for Gameweek 33? And in the next section, I'll be showing you fpl.team and my proposed transfers for Double Gameweek 34. It's all a question of timing. Do I make certain transfers in Gameweek 33 or 34, of course, but the ultimate goal is to line up with David Raya in goal in Double Gameweek 34, with Ait-Nouri, Virgil van Dijk, Saliba and Zabani as my back four, Eze, Salah, Saka and Diaz, all with a double game week in the midfield, and Erling Haaland and Solanke up front. So I can get to 10 doublers with just a -4 hit, and Haaland is my single game week player. I've got the likes of Palmer and Muniz on my bench. The same goes for Alfie Doughty and Martin Dubravka. So that bench could actually score a decent number of points. You could even argue a bench boost would be quite decent, but my plan is to wildcard in game week 35, and I could easily build a team full of doublers, maybe 13 to 15 doublers in in Gameweek 37, and we're talking about quality players with good fixtures, and also the quantity, of course, is pretty promising as well. So that bench boost could look really solid in a couple of weeks' time. But right now, I'm not thinking too much about the wildcard in 35. I'll see what happens in terms of injury updates, suspensions, and much more. Maybe form also needs to be considered. But right now, I'm kind of using tunnel vision to focus what's right in front of me in Gameweek 33 and Gameweek 34. And this is my desired starting 11 for that double. But a few things could change. Maybe I can go for Darwin Nunez instead, and I won't go for Luis Diaz, and I can go for Odegaard in that midfield and go for Pickford in goal. There's a few things that certainly are up for debate, but I think this is the best starting 11 I can build for Double Gameweek 34, and it will be quite close to those three hitting. But of course, the -4 hit will set me back a little bit, but I'm hoping that Gameweek 37 and also my squad for Gameweek 35 until the end of the season will be quite solid, and I'll have that edge of those that don't have the wild card to use in Gameweek 35. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you have any questions or anything you want to discuss, leave them in the comment section down below. And thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 23,000 subscribers, which we're looking to get to by the Tuesday during the UCL Fantasy deadline stream. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, for the latest FPL and UCL Fantasy updates. Join the Discord server, the FPL League, FPL Challenge League, Drafthound, check that link out and also sign up. And there's also much more, such as my Spotify and Amazon Music links. Be sure to leave a 5-star review on those podcasts, and tune in for the deadline stream tomorrow on the Saturday as we talk about everything you need to know for Gameweek 33. I wish you all the best of luck for the upcoming deadline and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.